So welcome everyone. I'm Sue Speakman-Gomez. I'm president at HousingLink. We're so glad that you're able to join us. And we are hosting this session with Jason Soul from Humanize My Hoodie. And I am going to keep my introduction short and sweet. If you don't know who HousingLink is, I'm not sure why you're here, but we're a nonprofit organization. You can list your vacancies for free through our site. We connect landlords to renters. We provide a lot of education and resource to both landlords and renters in the community. And we've been doing a lot of work in the last 4 or 5 years around looking at how do we help renters with barriers in their backgrounds. The whole purpose of today is to highlight this issue, and Jason will speak first, and then also share a little bit about our Beyond Backgrounds program and the work that we've been doing since November of 2017. So with that, I will pass it over to you, Jason.
Thank you, Sue. My name is Jason Soul. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a community member. I humbly serve. I'm a professor at Hamlin. I teach criminal justice courses. And I just care about people, who've been swept up in the war on drugs. I care about survivors. I care about people. And I think overall, my accolades or degrees or any of that, people know me as someone you can depend on. So I'm grateful for that. Got school conferences all day for my babies, so I got time blocked off to speak with teachers for my 9-year-old and my 13-year-old. So got to stay active as a father, and that's really important to me. But I'm gonna lift up people who come home from prison and how the new Jim Crow really works on them. So I just want to share a little bit about my story, who I am, and what I had to go through with housing issues. My teens and 20s, housing was a critical part of me being held back from certain things that other kids were able to get or other young adults were able to get. So just want to share a little bit of that. And I want to talk about what we're trying to do to actually be able to house people without a barrier in between that. We want to figure out how to have an ecosystem of landlords who really understand what a second chance looks like. So I'm gonna dive right in. We know the numbers. All the reports have been written. When people come home from prison, it's like they have to go on this hunt for housing, and you got to get it within 60 days. My clock was ticking. Once I came out of prison, I knew I had a window of time to get this housing or end up back in the cage. So you can look, there's a plethora of research that shows all across the country, people coming home from prison, I can't get housing. Nobody wants to rent to somebody who sold drugs. Nobody wants to rent to me. I wrote a bad check. Nobody wants to rent to me. And they always tell that story. So we know what the numbers look like, but I want to further tell the story. I grew up in Chicago during the war on drugs. 1982 was when the war on drugs hit. I was born in 78. And I saw it take my uncle to prison. I saw it take my father to a heroin addiction. He's still an addict, So I saw the corruption in the city firsthand. The cops everywhere and people dying. I grew up in that. And whenever we had hope, they snatched it away some kind of way. Like, this is Mayor Harold Washington, first black man in Chicago. He was our hope. You know what I mean? He had the Obama energy before Obama came, like way back. I'm talking 83, he became mayor. He died 87. He died one day before, Thanksgiving. I was in 4th grade. Made no sense to me. So for us, all we had was pain. All we had was housing issues. We got drugs, we got guns. That stuff hit hard. It hit hard. My uncle went to prison at 12 and he came home when he was 18. It harmed him. It harmed him. Come home trying to get housing, was just in the cage all that time. Now it's like, oh, rush, you got to get a job, got to get housing. It wasn't structured right. So when he died, it was suspicious and we didn't know what to do with it. So it was a lot of pain. But through that stuff, I was thriving. I always was smart in school. I'm grateful for that. My parents were teen parents. They were 16 when my sister was born. They were 19 when I was born. And I was socialized as a boy. And I had, like I said, I had behavior issues from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade, where you see me here. And I'm shining on them. I had to show this picture. I'm like, whoo. I mean, it's sad because 8th grade graduation, it's a big deal because you might not see another graduation. That's how serious my context of community was. We got evicted my 8th grade year. And if you know about eviction, landlord took all of our items, put it right on the curb. We had to grab what we could and had to leave. My father wasn't paying the rent. It was a huge traumatic experience in my life, man. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like, as a 13-year-old boy, I just was like, man, my stomach hurt, man. Like, trying to have some pride and dignity after something like that. It's like you got to rebuild and repair yourself. And I was just trying to figure it out. I was the paper boy that year too. So I delivered the papers in my neighborhood, Chicago Sun-Times, but I was always trying to make some money and figure it out. But even here, you can see I have on a pink tie. I had healthy masculinity back then. This is 1992 in Chicago, South Side. And I wasn't worried about somebody questioning my sexual orientation. I wasn't worried about it at all. And I wore that pink tie with pride and I felt good. And it was like, anybody got something to say? We'll deal with it at another time. But it was an amazing graduation because for me, this wasn't my school. I went to a different school for 7 years and going to Kosminski, it was the school to prison pipeline, man. I went to one school for 7 years. I saw my classmates die in 5th grade, 6th grade, asthma attacks, murders. And I still made it to this day. So I was blessed to be resilient because a lot of that stuff was tearing kids down. And I'm grateful. So I'm just giving context because it seems like it was already set for me to end up in prison. I lost my way. High school years, I lost my way. High school was a different ball game. Compared to our elementary school, I went to Paul Lawrence Dunbar, and that's on 29th and King Drive. And it's like, if you think about those years when they talked about gangs and drugs and guns, that stuff was being dumped on us and it was the only way out. And I fell into it, man. I wanted some money. I got tired of being broke, man. I just hated that feeling, man. I'm like, my classmates were selling drugs and they were having things that like really don't matter. But at the same time, it was like a self-esteem type of thing. Like if I didn't have some of these things, y'all know how it is. The culture was, we all hurting. We got to have something that shows, hey, I deserve respect. I deserve for you to treat me like a person. I deserve to be humanized. And I was messing up. This was homecoming. They told me not to bring that gang stuff in there, and I still brought the gang stuff, man. Dumb decisions. Like I say, my grades tight, captain of the basketball team. But at the same time, I'm messing up. My mom sent me to Iowa my junior year. And, she found my drugs. I had 1/8 of a kilo and I was 15 years old. I was one of the top ball players in Chicago, but, and I lettered my sophomore year too, which is a big deal. But I was selling drugs and stuff and she found those drugs and sent me to Waterloo, Iowa to live with my aunt. And that's where I experienced racism. Because in Chicago, I never went to school with anybody other than a black person. Chicago is segregated. So I didn't grow up with diversity. I grew up with all black folks. So going to Waterloo, Iowa, man, it was a culture shock, man. I'm like, I don't know how to, I never dealt with people who felt like they can call you a nigger. I never dealt with that in Chicago. So for me to be in Waterloo, Iowa, I was standing on principle. I'm like, hey, don't ever think you can call me anything. I'm the nicest person. Everybody from high school will tell you that. But at the same time, when you bring some nonsense and you trying to like disrespect me, and I couldn't go for that. I mean, I was a 16-year-old kid with a gang tattoo on my arm, and I didn't eat pork. I was practicing Islam at the time, and it was like I moved differently than everybody else. My coach on here, my coach was racist. He's still racist. He's a racist for real. And we used to get into it. I mean, I had to play the ball. Like, I mean, I could hoop, you know, like the game came easy to me. I had basketball IQ as far as rebounding, passing, my shots, you know, 4 years strong, all 4 years. But I was that kid with the afro who would come to play basketball, but have students screaming, you know, racial stuff. I didn't know about Dubuque, Iowa, and Iowa City, Iowa, and I didn't know about them places. So when I go in there to play, I'm focused on trying to score 25 points. Like my mind is on a different. I'm not even like racism would come to me, and I would always get frustrated and, you know, take it to a different level because I just didn't understand how somebody think they can just like disrespect your, you know, your people like that. So it was tough. It was tough, but I graduated on time. Like I said, I'm captain of the team. I shouldn't do things like this, but I got my hat cocked to the left. I mean, I didn't have people around me telling me what to do for the media and all of that stuff. I just had to show up at places. Like, I just played basketball. I didn't have the engine around me to help me take the talent to another level. I was doing it on my own. Had a job. I stayed focused. Committed to the Air Force my senior year. I could have graduated a semester early my senior year. I stayed for basketball. It was still the season, and I wanted to play it out. But half of me was saying, let me end it and just go back to Chicago. I did consider that because my coach, like, I mean, just a jerk. Just a jerk. You know, I'm a 17-year-old kid, and if I'm the captain, I need some leader. I need to be able to lead the way I lead. And for a coach that played politics and stuff, it was tough. And I committed to the Air Force my senior year. Signed, sealed, and delivered. When I walked across the stage, it was a glorious occasion because we didn't know if I'd graduate. I mean, I got all this skill and talent, but nobody's investing in this black boy from Chicago. So I'm making mistakes, and I hold all responsibility for my mistakes. But here I did the right thing. And right before boot camp, they called me. And it just hurt, man. I was going to the Air Force with my friend Corey Taylor. He's an amazing person. He's still amazing. So you look up Corey Taylor, just a dope person, spirit, everything, father, husband. He's just super amazing. And we were going to the Air Force together, the same boot camp date and everything. You know, me and Corey, we riding. We're about to go to the military. And they called me right before and said, hey, we can't let you go because you had asthma as a child. I said, I passed all your physicals, all three. I passed the written and all three physicals. Not only that, I played 4 years high school basketball. Not only that, I ran in Drake relays in 1996. So I ran a 4x1. How do I have a breathing problem now? Like what kind of, it was politics, man. And I didn't understand it back then. We didn't have the language for it. And I'm like, wait, I'm enlisted. In my yearbook, it says I'm committed to the Air Force. It was, man, Corey Taylor had to go by himself. That hurt. It hurt my mom. It hurt my sister. It hurt my brother. It hurt all of us, man. It set us all back. It set us all back. And it was simple. I was going to be a soldier in the military or a soldier in the streets. And that's just what happened. Like I said, I was lost. I have regrets. I just turned myself over to the gang world. I couldn't understand, man. It was people who didn't have as much talent as me, man. Their numbers weren't as high as mine on the basketball court. How did they end up getting scholarships and stuff? I just didn't have the structure. People said I had raw talent. I could show up past the test. I didn't have any structure around me. And that's what it hurt. It hurt me. I could have been responsible enough to have a place at 17 on my own. I'm captain. I got a job and my grades are good. Why do you think I can't maintain my own place? You know, my aunt, you know, she struggles with mental illness, and we didn't know this back then when I came to live with her. And it just wasn't working out. So my senior year, like I said, I was predominantly homeless, and I had to take to the streets in certain ways. And after graduating, I had nothing to keep me on path. I had nothing. I just lost myself, man. Like I said, I was just reckless. Probably was depressed. Probably some depression here. Yeah, probably a lot of depression, actually. There was a lot happening. Those were some tough years. I got shot on university. That was tough. Broke my leg. I got, rod screws in my leg. I mean, it doesn't bother me now, but it took a lot of work, to heal back up. But people tried to kill me. And it was tough in St. Paul during that time. And we didn't know we were doing transformative justice, but we were doing transformative justice back then because we worked our stuff out. We see each other now. We got no issues. None. But it took work. But, I got shot and it forever changed me. I didn't know about slavery until I was labeled a felon. I didn't get what that label could do to you. It's a lot of pain in these photos. A lot of times cops say, man, it's gonna blow your head off. A lot of this stuff, some of this stuff is bogus. Like that Hennepin County, Sheriff Stanek, that's a 12 gauge to the face in front of 23 people, some babies. To my head, I'll blow your head. That's what, and this is documented. 23 people were right there. Put me down for something that's not even a case. They took me to jail with my friend. Terroristic threats. For 8 months, nobody ever said we threatened them. No paperwork. Taken to jail. No, let me go back. Taken to the library in North Minneapolis, then taken to Falwell Park, then taken to the jail. And my friend is he's freaking out because this police officer is just taking us play. He just put a 12 gauge to my face. So my friend is freaking out. It was just slavery. But I'm blessed because they was wrapping up some of my friends on 80, 90-year cases. Lies. All lies. This is what we was going through, man. Like I say, I'm wrong for possessing drugs. I'm wrong for having a gun. I did my time. I got caught with, 18 grams of crack cocaine. Y'all know about the war on drugs. 18 grams can fit in your hand. 40 months in prison. This after a bunch of negotiating, I still got to do 40 months. I got potential. They didn't care about any potential. I got to go to a cage. Caught with a gun, I got to go to the workhouse. I got to do a year in Washington County jail. I'm talking, this is my life. And I just kept working, but 23 hours in the cage doesn't help anybody. It was a point when I was in solitary confinement where I just ran out of memories. I ran through all my memories. I'm talking every memory in 3rd grade, 5th grade, 7th grade. I ran through all my memories. And when you get to a place in your mind where you can't really think of any things to keep you going, that's when I saw people, really going down. And I could understand that. But I saw other people just get broken down over time. I'm grateful. I'm one of the lucky ones, but it just didn't really match. And it wasn't any help. It was just like, oh, you got drugs? Prison. Oh, yep. All this surveillance. And I had things to offer to the world. So I studied while I was incarcerated. If you know how I did my time, I was a prison leader. Of course, leadership always came pretty natural, and I'm grateful for that. I always was looking at ancestors. I always was looking at people who tried to fight the good fight. Mandela, 27 years. Come on, man. Then comes out to be president. Pretty phenomenal. We all know Angela Davis, super amazing. Malcolm X did 7 years in prison. He went through pretty much more transformations as a person than I've seen of anyone. Like to go from Dirty Red to Malcolm X to Malik El-Hashbaz to it's transformations happening there. And I studied that, because I definitely wanted to change myself as well. I didn't want to be looked at as, the person I used to be, so all of these things were important. 2004, I started at Metro State University. Came home from prison. 2002, hated the jobs I was having. And I hated that nobody wanted to rent to me. It was like I kept explaining I'm responsible. I can do this. Like I can have a place. And when I finally did get a place, it was in the hood. It was in economically deprived neighborhood. All the old drug dealers know me. It's sex workers out there. It's cops that only know me for being a person that got shot or being a person getting caught with a gun. So this is just like I'm fed back into the wolves. And I will say, Hazelden, I was going to show a clip, but I'm not going to show a clip. Hazelden, they filmed me for 8 months when I came home from prison just to see how things will work out. And a lot of people had promised me things on the housing side, but when it came down to the felony question, they just always said, man, you got caught with drugs. That bans you from here. I'm like, getting caught with drugs doesn't mean like I'm an awful person. I used to keep saying like, that doesn't mean that. Like, but when I did get my shot, Bob Jansen was the one who gave me my shot. He was the chef at the Holiday Inn, and I had worked there for 4 months, and he saw me as the banquet supervisor, and he said, hey, I'm gonna help you out. Without that, I wouldn't have got a place because I was paying so many application fees. It was like $50 here, $35 here, all for them really to tell me no because I had felonies. So it was frustrating. So one day I was just driving down the street. I hated that I was living in the hood. I really hated that. And I was driving down the street frustrated. I left the Holiday Inn, got tired of being there. After 10 months, I left. Ended up getting a job at National Checking Company, a place that didn't even hire felons. And they gave me a shot. They felt I was genuine, and I stayed there 13 months before the company hit a recession and had to lay off 12 of us. And with that, I just was riding down the street one day, and I drove into Metro State, and I said, I need to get signed up. One of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I studied African-American history and constitutional law my first semester as a student. And I became an organizer, became president of the Black Student Association. My first year as a student was able to be a volunteer for Angela Davis when she came to Minneapolis. That's one moment I'll never forget in my life. And we had a real conversation. It wasn't just hi and a picture, because I didn't even give my picture. All those people you see right there, they all got their picture with Angela Davis, but we were just running our mouth like we knew each other, and it was genuine, and I'll never forget that moment. But my advisor was Chuck McDew, and he allowed me to be, as radical as I wanted to be. He allowed me to shut down the president's office if I wanted to. He allowed me to take on tough topics for events. He just trusted me. And Chuck McDew is one of the founding members of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. So it's important to lift that up. It's a movie about him called Freedom Song. So shout out to Chuck McDew. May he rest in peace. He just passed away about 3 years ago. He allowed me, and he broadened my understanding of organizing, because Chuck McDew, he was a 15-year-old kid at Fisk University shutting down Woolworths, shutting down highways, and they didn't like Dr. King. So to have him as an advisor, I would really challenge him and say, like, and he used to say Dr. King was in his 30s and stuff. We were 16, 17, man. We moved differently than how he moved, man. He said, man, he was Christian and he moved this. He said, we moved that. As a student, as I was able to really shift my whole identity. I was able to go from being a gang leader to being an organizer. You got to think, we did this event in 2005, and I moderated it. And you see Dr. Keith Mays up there from the U of M. You see Dr. Rose Brewer. You see Dr. Sam Grant. You see Elder Kwasi, and you see Hosey Thurman, who's an amazing, person in the therapy world. He provides, therapy groups for Black men. So all of these people are amazing. So even back then, we were talking about, Black liberation. I'll never forget that event. It was February 3rd, and it was freezing cold. I mean, freezing. But we came anyway. We was worried about our numbers and whether people would show up because it was an extremely cold day. But it was dope. And I learned from my elders. Marion Wright Edelman gave me my first job working with kids after prison. Nobody would want me to work with young people. I had felonies, right? She gave me my first job. And if you know who Marion Wright Edelman is, she was the civil rights attorney during the civil rights movement. She's a beast. Love her to death. She opened up. I probably wouldn't have been able to come through academia if I didn't have these teaching experiences beforehand. So gotta lift up my elder, Marion Wright Edelman. Donna Brazil. To be able to be around people like this back then, we were already trying to talk about liberation. I was working with kids back then, being a mentor, giving the tools to young people so they wouldn't go through the school to prison pipeline. And for all the students on here, I got my 4-year degree in 3 years. I was just on one semester I had 6 classes. That was in the summer too. And I would take it on and I would organize my stuff and really just focus. People would see me in the library 10 hours a day because I could lock in like that. I could throw on a video, have my stuff and work. And I graduated in 3 years. And it was because Trio helped me. Definitely shout out Eve Nichols, the president, Bradshaw, he helped me. I won Male Student Leader of the Year 2 years in a row. I studied criminal justice. I wore a different leader on my shirt to every class. Angela Davis, Malcolm X, Mandela, every week because those law enforcement students, they just hated my Black skin. It was a fight every time I came to class. If I'm in my gangs class or I'm in my class on prison reentry, man, these folks don't even know who I am and they speaking on this topic. And it's like, you can't label all felons this. You can't do that. It's just not fair. And we're talking about fair process if we study in criminal justice. But, I'm smiling real hard because, like I say, I gave Dr. Bradshaw a hard time, man. Like, if y'all know, when I was a student, I was pretty radical. I helped, relief efforts for Hurricane Katrina. I had voter registration drives, even though I couldn't vote, because I was a felon or whatever. I still showed up in my best light and we still cool. He still supports me. He's at Florida Gulf Coast University right now. He's still amazing. So, and I told him I was going to do a backflip on stage. So that's why we smiling because I said, man, I'm doing a backflip and just put my, degree in my hand. He's like, man, I'm not doing that. I'm like, oh, well, still going to do a backflip. But I didn't do it. I just, told the convention center to get up. It's an amazing day. But I met my wife in college, so, that's the best thing out of all of this, and she's went on to get her master's at the U of M and she's a therapist and she's just a super dope person and grateful, to have her in my life for sure. So being able to meet my, my significant other was amazing. Studying criminal justice, it wasn't a lot of Black students in it because most people wanted to be a cop or a probation officer or, correctional officer. So it was a lot of static in the program. So we had to band together because some of those days were really hard and really challenged us to speak up if something was taught, incorrectly. And, I put my family first, and I just struggle with why people couldn't see this. Why couldn't landlords see that I could do some important things in this lifetime? It hurt me. I even sacrificed, man, look, I don't even like Halloween. No offense to anybody, but it's like, if I'm knocking on doors, I'm trying to get somebody elected. Just keep it all the way real. I do not like knocking on doors for those 3 pieces of candy. That is not my vibe at all. I try and tell my kids every year, we don't got to do all of this to get the candy. But, I sacrifice for the family. I do, I don't want to have a, broken family and all of that stuff. So, I sacrifice for the squad. Even my wife says it's time to take pictures. Before COVID, she'll say, I booked us a day. We going to do this. I show up. I ain't no resistance there. I got no resistance. And, from the time they were born, from cutting the cord, I've been there. I got parent conferences today. So in between, presenting to y'all, I gotta, be there for my babies on conference today. So every step of the way, dance recitals, whatever. I've been a prop dad. I've been to national tournaments with them. I love my family and I'm grateful, for them. They make me a better person. I always tell my daughter, don't just think about how I make you better. Think about how you make me better, because anybody in my household can check me. I don't got the kind of household where I got no accountability. I got plenty accountability in my home. But I started teaching restorative justice across the country 2008. And just showing what Native Americans gave us, a process where we can actually have justice. Because the criminal justice system says you harm me, we go through a process. Whoever has the better lawyer is going to have the better outcome. That's the criminal justice system. If you're poor, probably get prison. If you got money, you pay for, justice, however you see justice. So for me, being trained in restorative justice, then going everywhere. I went to Hawaii and trained. I trained at the Las Vegas Police Department. I've trained in prisons. I've trained in juvenile detention centers. I've trained everywhere. And I'm just grateful to be able to bring people together in that way to show, hey, we can meet and talk and share a story and really get to know each other. And we can learn how to hold each other accountable if we see somebody do something that's out of pocket. And we created a lot of, programs from being able to say, hey, let's just talk. Let's just figure it out. You bring some of your people, they're going to bring some of their people. We coming in peace. Let's pass the talking piece, a sacred object to honor the people who came before us. And doing that has allowed me to be able to see the trajectory into transformative justice. So I'm grateful to find other models to help us actually solve our problems. And when it's time for me to stand up, I stand up. When we had the problems 2016, Muslim bans and all of that stuff, I stood up. I was president of the Minneapolis NAACP. I put it all on the line. It's like when they pulled out those sticks, we said, hey, man, we want justice for Philando. He shouldn't have been killed. I take that to my grave. He shouldn't have been killed. His dying words were, I wasn't reaching for it. I'm telling no lie, this man turned over in front of us, man. Can't honor that. So I always ride for stuff like that. I'm always going to ride. When Jamar Clark was killed, I had to stand up and say, no, this wasn't a domestic violence call. Y'all lied. I had to do that because, if nobody's going to speak up and tell the truth, I'll do it. And I've done it consistently. It's like I had to stand up and say that was not a domestic violence call. And she even said it herself. She said she fell. He was just coming to check on her. She called the police. She called the ambulance because she fell and twisted her ankle. I had to tell that narrative because, people know me as a community member. It was important for me to speak up. And we held down a precinct for 18 days because it just wasn't right, man. He got killed in 62 seconds and it was instigated by a person that got fired from another police department. If I'm going to teach criminal justice at universities, I'm going to teach it in the street as well when cases are actually happening. So when I was frontline, that's why I had to tell the true story. And I created programs that reduce crime. I created Warrant Forgiveness Day, and it's becoming a statewide model. And I said, can we have judges and the ACLU with the NAACP where we bring in folks who got low-level misdemeanor warrants and clear them up, because we don't want an overzealous cop coming in and killing them. Model's proven successful. Like, they still doing it. They still talking about it. You know, I've long moved on, you know, but I'm grateful to be able to create models like that. Like I said, when it's time that I'm called, I show up and got to take my babies. I have to take my babies with me to Ferguson. You know, so, you know, I always want to do what's right. I didn't even want to do this. They made me wear this. They made me wear this ancestral piece. And shout out to the artist who made this piece. But when I showed up that day, that wasn't my job. But I took it on and took a sacrifice for the squad. I'm an able-bodied person, and we know we're going to have some resistance ahead. So just want to be prepared. But I wore that as a sacrifice. And for most of the walk, I had it over my face. But it got so hot in there, 25, 30 pounds just attached standing. And I'm like, it's not a lot of weight, but I'm walking from a long distance. So I sacrificed for the team. And when I had to take it off as we got closer to the state fairgrounds, because it was just too much hatred ahead. But this is what democracy looks like, everybody doing well. Created the Humanize My Hoodie movement. Super grateful for that. I just made this post. I had been a professor for 8 years, and I was a visiting professor at Hamlin at the time. And I said, I want to do some research on my students and just see, can their threat perception of a black man in a hoodie go down if I wear a hoodie to class each week? And I just took a picture to say what I meant, because these some tough books, you know what I mean? like for real, these some tough books. And I had on my Black Lives Matter hoodie and show you my babies and my wife and say, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a professor. I'm not a criminal because I got on a hoodie. And I mean, it's a global movement now. We empower, you know, other young folks, and we just create more leaders. You know, it's not about us. It's about us being a conduit and using our platform to help others. Got recognized by John Legend. Super grateful. Like, man, like, he's a busy person. like I just say that when he's not making music, man, he's like super busy just in life. And he stands up against hatred. He stands up against Trump and all of that. Like, grateful for him using this platform like that. So to lift me up, honored, you know, like super grateful. But this is what it's about for me. You know, my platform is to help other people do better. It's not about Jason Soul. It's about these kids being okay and not going through the school to prison pipeline. When we go back to our towns, we turn it out. We're a big deal in our communities, and we grateful to be that shining light. You know, go in and it's 300 people wearing a hoodie. It's like, I don't think we ever posted this online, man. Some photos are just so sacred, you know, that where it's like, you know, we only show it sporadically. It feels good, man, when you count it out and, you know, thrown away and going through the new Jim Crow. It's a lot. But for me, I'm one of the lucky ones. All I've been through, I'm still one of the lucky ones. My cousin just came home last Tuesday. He got a place. He's good. So happy, so happy. He need a car now, so we working on that. But for too many people coming out of prison, this their experience. They come home and they homeless. I just want to streamline that. I want to be able to say, hey, here are some landlords, and I'm a vouch for them. I'm going to screen folks and say, hey, come on, man, it's a place right here. It's a nice place. Let's find it for you, because we've heard stories of people leaving the prison, and because they don't have anywhere to go, they just go to sleep right there at the prison. And I'm like, man, that's just I'm like, I've heard that. I don't know if you've heard it. Look it up. Do some research on it. But I'm like, I heard that story more than once. And I'm like, geez, I can't imagine. Because for me, I wanted to get as far as I could, like, away from that. So I'm like, I can't understand it all the way. But it's a sad reality when we have women coming home from Shakopee prison and they saying, hey, I'm calling over here. I'm looking over here. It's like, Let's figure it out for them. They shouldn't have to think about that when they come home. Everybody deserves a place to stay. I hope we all can agree on that, but I think everybody deserves a place to stay. We got to think about how to make all spaces adequate. So that's the vision. Hopefully there's 25 amazing people who want to just go on a journey, of while people are coming home on release, we already got a place set up for them. Because it's like, even in my cousin's place, he got a bed, he got a TV. He said, I'm good right now. I get the other stuff later. And I'm like, you shouldn't even have to think about these things, because he had a cookout the other day, man. I mean, just his family, just his immediate family, his kids, and, he a grandfather now too, while he was in prison. One of his kids had a kid. So it's like, to see him having a dinner with his, kids, it's like, this is amazing and everybody should experience it. But unfortunately, everybody doesn't. And like I say, especially, just want to make it clear, women coming home from prison, they shouldn't have to think about housing and a job. We should be able to have some safety nets for them. So yeah, so that's why it's important we jamming with HousingLink. Like, Stu has already helped. Had a young person who, she went through the system at 16 years old. Her baby was taken away from her. Super amazing. And I contacted Sue, and Sue helped her get in her place. And she's furnished and she's chilling. She's 22 years old now. She's working. And we're working on getting custody of her baby back. And she didn't even think she'd get to a place where she would have regular visits and even be thinking about that. So probably next year we got to think about how to get her a 2-bedroom, because she deserves to have her baby with her. She's responsible, and she's proving that right now. So thank you, Sue, for doing that, like just providing a referral. That was greatly appreciated. And we got 4 Hamlin students working on this as well. So from a statewide model, just trying to see who is providing second chances for folks, where one landlord might say, I'll take somebody who had check forgery, but I do not want somebody who's a drug offender that got 3 convictions. Just want to make it clear. If you are open to second chances, what does it look like? Where's your limit? Where's your threshold? Or do you understand that murderers are the least likely to reoffend? I'm talking on any level. They're not likely to get a speeding ticket. Or murderers, people who have taken life, least likely to reoffend. So with the 4 Hamlin interns, we just taking off. It's just been a few weeks, and we just looking at the landscape, just trying to see what's out there and who's doing what. Because if we can actually have places for all of the people who are wrongfully convicted, because it's a lot of people up for pardons, it's a lot of people submitting, writs all the time. And it's like, more people are going to come home. And with COVID, we've seen the prisons release more people than they've ever released, which shows us they don't really need to be there. That's what it shows us. So if you take nothing else from this presentation, just understand, if we can release all these people because of a pandemic, I think that shows it's some people already in position to hit the ground running. They just need to be on this side of the wall. So I'm glad to be on that journey with my Hamlin interns. I don't know, do we got any brave intern want to share what we've been doing? You don't have to. I'm just opening up the space for you. Let me see. All right. So that's amazing, to be able to look at the entire landscape and be able to connect folks in a meaningful way, and to be relationship based. Because if I refer somebody, they're going to have an engine around them. Same engine I needed when I was a child. Like, they will have that. Because we thrilled that Mayim Burrell came home, and he had an ecosystem. His sister, this was a big moment after 18 years of being in prison to be able to come home. But we say that it's a myth of felony-friendly housing. It's like, because when we have people that are ready and need a place to stay, it's not there. Mayan has a circle. He has a network. It's like, I'm going to connect with him, I think, next week or something like that. So it's like, he already he already around folks who are doing well. And unfortunately, it's some people who come home who don't have that. So with Humanize My Hoodie and HousingLink, we trying to streamline that a little bit. But hey, welcome home to Miami for sure. Um, I'm open for whatever questions you might have. I think it's 5 minutes. I mean, well, we got a little bit of time, right? So 5 minutes.
Yes, we can spend 5 minutes on questions for sure.
Yeah. So if you got any questions, I'm open.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So how do we unite? I had asked it in the chat, but how do we unite to create funding or legislation to help? Because it's going to take funding to be able to create programs. I mean, especially if someone's coming from prison and they don't have the resources. So it's something that could mirror like the Section 8 program and, you know, maybe transitional 2-year program. How do we unite and how do we start that process?
Yeah, I mean, you can introduce a bill or you can connect with folks who are already, have a bill in place. I mean, there's been a number of coalitions fighting for things at the Capitol, but for me, that's slow. That's like a lot slower because, I mean, it's politics, right? So you got to put the bill and put the energy around it. But I mean, we thought we were doing some revolutionary stuff when we banned the box. When we banned the box on job applications, like we felt like we had done our job, but I mean, we realized that, they still were, being prejudiced to people who, had felonies. So I think have legislation. I think Second Chance Coalition might have some stuff. There's some groups working on that. I'm not in the loop anymore. To actually build the people. Because I mean, Humanize My Hoodie started with me and my friend. 2 people. You don't need 100. It's good to base build, but if you got the passion for it and you got the vision, make sure you build all the talent around you. Whatever you need, build that around you. So I just try to empower other leaders to start the process. If somebody hasn't done it before you, just do it. When I came home from prison, I hadn't seen anyone who had felonies as a professor. I still don't know of another person who went to prison teaching criminal justice. I know some that teach other subjects, but I don't see a lot of like people who be like prison the way I was in a gang, got shot. I don't see them teaching criminal justice. So I had to dream this a little bit. So if you got the dream, hey, put the plan in place. Sure. Great question.
And I agree. I think that, that like the Beyond Backgrounds program, it is a great program but very, very hard to get participation or to get into the program itself. So that's, my vision was even thinking, how do we expand on that?
Yeah. So my hope for this call is to start like the relationships with landlords and with people who are formerly incarcerated. So it's an understanding there where the people coming home, they have community. They just need a chance. So that's where HousingLink has more resources in that space. For us, we have a movement. We have an engine around us. We're going to be able to, our hope is to be able to provide first month rent and damage deposit for people coming home. That's what Humanize My Hoodie end is trying to come up with, but we're figuring it out. We just want y'all to be able to know what we're doing. You know what I mean? So we're building it while we're flying it, but we know that we're going to serve a number of people because like I said, just with me contacting Sue and we actually finding, a space. Like I said, this girl was 16 and did 10 months in a facility. It wasn't right. She committed no crime. She just had a baby and was trying to figure it out. She shouldn't have went to So for us to already have some, success, I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be ever evolving. So I'm excited to see what the students will bring versus what, along with what, I will bring, with HousingLink will bring, and everybody else. So, I'm excited for that. But we're in the early stages right now. We don't have a full business plan laid out or anything like that. Just figure out how to help individuals coming home. So yeah. But if you want to stay connected, hey, just say that.
Oh, I'll be sending you an email.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Because I know we got to wrap up pretty soon, and I know Sue, wanted to close us out.
I got a question. Have you done any work with Decarcerate Minnesota or the IWOC Twin Cities?
Long time ago, I did. When I was NAACP president, I did a lot of collaborations along those lines. Not so much in my present work, but yeah, I value anybody challenging the prison system, because I do believe we can have a police-free world and a prison-free world if we build enough solid relationships. I think that's one of the missing pieces in all of this. It's a disconnect between, a lot of organizations and people who have been to prison. And I'm like, when you go to prison, you're still a community member. My mom still cared about me. My friends still cared about me. I still had a community. I just had 7 or 8 doors in between us. So any group that's like sharing that kind of information and saying, hey, cages are not solving our problems. I know a lot of survivors who feel good about the person that harmed them going to prison, but at the same time don't feel whole again. They still feel broken. We got to have the relationships where if they want to, really have a conversation with the person that harmed them, we make that happen. And that's what we've been doing. So I'm just envisioning a solid collaboration where we like closing the gap, from the people who actually have rental space and the people actually coming home, because I think they're stigmatized so much, they're not even getting their foot in the door. Just want to close that up a little bit.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Hey, Jason, this is Heather Camilla. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. I really just want to thank you for sharing your truth and for your story, because every time I'm able to bear witness to this, it just affirms what I want to do to be part of that solution. So thank you so much. And I just wanted to also ask if you might consider just being a reader at our Imhotep Freedom School this summer. We'd love to have you.
I do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. We'll hit you up for that later then. Thank you so much.
Sure. Absolutely. It's always a joy. People always hit me up to do the read alouds because, it's like I try to make it fun. I try to make it exciting. And that's just something I've been doing since 2005, 2006, just doing the read aloud stuff. So absolutely, you could definitely put me there.
I'm going to tell you a quick story. So my little one, we were at an event and she noticed that there was a police presence and she had just heard you speak at her freedom school. And she said, Mama, I need to go home and get my hoodie.
Hey.
I need to go home and wear my hoodie. So we walked home, she put it on, but I just want to say, like, you really, those young scholars love it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm grateful. Truly. And your daughter's amazing, for sure.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so I think we're good. Thank y'all for
I think so.
Spending the time. I'm grateful to serve, grateful to be doing this work, and I hope to hear from you all soon, so ready to do this. I'm inspired, for sure. Go ahead, Sue. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jason. I'm just going to share a couple of things about our Beyond Backgrounds program and how you can stay connected to HousingLink and to Humanize My Hoodie and Jason to, get your listings into the hands of renters who will directly benefit from your properties. So Beyond Backgrounds, we created it back in 2017. The program model is we have staff who support landlords in two ways. One is there's a risk mitigation fund if you have concerns about renting to someone with criminal credit or rental history barriers. And then we also have ongoing monthly check-ins with you about how things are going. And we also are checking in with the renter throughout the term of the lease. When you rent to someone, they get housing search support, monthly check-ins to see if rent's been paid, if there's any tenancy concerns, and other access to resources and supports as needed. And I'm just going to touch on a couple of the successes of the program. As I said, we just started back in 2017. We've grown it to cover the entire Twin Cities metro area and 4 counties in central Minnesota. We've got Stearns, Benton, Sherburne, and Wright counties. We've had 478 renters participate in the program. We've seen 66% of them get housed, 52% of those using the risk fund, and 48% where the landlord declined the risk fund and the ongoing contact because they wanted to leave space in the program for other landlords to join and participate. And of the renters who graduated from the program, we see that over 75% continue to stay stably housed. It oftentimes is actually close to like 100%, but sometimes we get a couple of people that we don't hear back from. So, you know, that tanks the statistic. But it's been a great program. And if you're interested in renting to folks through it, the #1 way to do it is list your vacancies through HousingLink. And we're in the midst of testing a change that's going to launch later this month, where you'll actually be able to sign up sort of for a program that you're interested in. And Humanize My Hoodie will be one of those programs. So you'll have a direct connection to renters working with Jason. Beyond Backgrounds is a program, and Housing Choice Vouchers is the other program that will be specifically listed and available for you through that resource. So if you're not familiar with our listing service, you'll definitely want to check it out. We will be announcing it through our newsletters on our site when all of that goes live later on this month. I see some more questions are popping in, so I'm gonna try to find my chat, which went away, and see if there are ones that we can answer. Before we hang up, it's a lot of people saying thank you. So yeah, I
Hello.
agree. Thank you, Jason.
Hello.
Yeah.
My name is Ravi. I'm a landlord. All my properties are in Eden Prairie. Currently, I rent to all Section 8 programs. So I'm not clear how this program works. You know, is it how the rents will get paid? You know, so
it depends somewhat on the person. Some renters have a job and they can afford to pay the rent directly themselves, and so they do that. And some we have renters with Section 8 vouchers or a family unification program voucher or other assistances. So it depends on the individual. There is not one set way that rent is paid through Beyond Backgrounds.
okay. And how to get in touch with you guys? You know, like Jason and you guys.
Sure. So I actually didn't put my email or my phone number on the slide. My email is just sgomez@housinglink.org. And I can always forward stuff on to Jason. We will send the slides out after the presentation too, so I'll make sure my email is there.
Do we have any other questions? I know people probably have a hard stop at 12:30. I know how these Zooms are back to back to back, so.
They can be, yeah. I do see Joyce McGee Brown. Hey, Joyce, she had a question about what type of education are you providing. So for Beyond Backgrounds, we partner with a variety of different programs who have some renter education sort of built into their organizations. With Humanize My Hoodie, Jason, is there anything specifically that you guys are doing?
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of initiatives. First, our homework hotline, where we take in calls, from young e-learners, and we pay amazing college students to do that. The Hubbard Scholars actually answer those phone calls. So we have a number of, services that we provide, for the community. But I'll drop a link. You can look at humanizemyhoodie.com or any of those. But we always trying to partner with folks to produce outcomes. So I'm excited for what we're going to do here. But we're willing to provide and step up for folks who can't make their rent. If Felicia and others can't make their rent, we're here. Humanize My Hoodie is a resource in that capacity. So that's why I'm excited about this initiative in particular, but we have a number of initiatives going on.
Great. Well, that was the only outstanding question that I found, and we are at 12:30. So Jason, thanks again so much for showing up and sharing your story and telling your truth. And thank you everyone for joining us, and you all have a great day.